Hello and welcome to the fourth devlog of a mobile zombie shooter called Meeting Joe, and this devlog is all about finding fun and diving deeper into the prototyping. So in the last couple of weeks I was quite productive in terms of thinking about the game, the mechanics, the vision that I have for the game, how it should look and feel, but I didn't really dive too much into prototyping and testing out different things and seeing how they play out and how it feels like. So one of the things I did in the last devlog was convince myself that I have at least the technical capabilities in terms of setting up, some of the mechanics and the coding to make everything work, like the Unity Ads Manager, some of the complicated city growth mechanics. And now this one is more about the big question: how can we make fun, and what is the most fun game we can actually develop? So maybe you are familiar with our famous buddy Jonas Tyroller, who actually released a pretty fun and intriguing video on game development, and that it's a bit more like a search algorithm. I'll leave a link to the video in somewhere in the description, but it's a really nice way of thinking about it, and he compares it to being a captain on a boat who takes different measurements, and you're trying to find the deepest spot, and the deepest spot being fun in this case, and that you're not just going in a linear route but also branching out, trying different things, which is exactly what the prototype should be. It's trying different things, pursuing crazy ideas before you commit to the main idea, and then develop in a linear fashion. So I asked myself, the game that I developed at the moment, what do I like about it, what do I not like about it? And I did what Jonas would do, so I basically tore everything apart, every mechanic, everything, how the game feels and develops. And the main experiences I had with the game that I developed at the moment, or the prototype I have at the moment, is that it isn't very fun. The experiences are that it's hard to hit the enemies, it's hard to avoid the enemies, the shooting mechanic isn't fun, the pacing doesn't feel right. So in short, it's just like, something you don't want. You just want to hop on and go to a different game. But I asked myself, what are some of the reasons behind it? And I think it's kind of like four main buckets that I found. So from those experiences, it's hard to hit the enemies because the rotation feels clunky and weird. It's difficult to aim. There's no indicator of where you're actually aiming. It's hard to avoid the enemies because the map is very small. The distance between the spawn location and the player is very limited. The shooting isn't fun because it's pretty boring and dull. It's one weapon. There's not much variability. The pacing doesn't feel right because it's kind of like, not the right setting yet. So I try to go through each of those specific topics and then try to find what are some possible solutions. And I categorized them in 7 big buckets that you can see on the right, like movement settings, spawn manager settings that I need to change, visual indicators, weapon types, map design, enemy design, and trade-offs. And some of them I implemented and I can talk to them, but some of those 7 categories I still need to investigate in the future, so there's more to come. But some of the things I experimented with was, for example, changing the map to a bigger map, which was what you saw in the beginning, where I just want to see how it feels if there's more space between the player and the spawn location, so you have more time to rotate and aim, and you're not this, crunched together in a small room, which was the prototype at the moment. So I experiment a lot with the level design, with the weapon types, and also with the spawn manager. Those are the 3 things I worked on. And also the enemy design. So it's the enemy design, map design, weapon type, and spawn manager. Those 4 things I worked on. And I really liked the bigger level design. I liked the enemy design, where I thought about if enemies die, you see a large puddle of blood, and that makes the enemies quicker. So you need to think about where you kill them, so you have a bit of a more likelihood to kill the rest of them. And the second mechanic I liked was where the enemies turn into obstacles, which then bounces off the bullets, so it makes it even harder. So those are the 2 mechanics from the enemies that I liked if they die, and the bigger level. Those are the 2 things I tried to implement, but there's more to come, and definitely more of those 7 buckets to explore. So stay tuned, I'll keep you updated.